Cumberland Stories is brought to you by the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Come to historic Cherokee, North Carolina. Our story lives on. And by the Angler's Edge from Speed Tech, for information you can use.
The very first outdoorsmen were the Native Americans. And in the southeast part of this country, the Cherokee Indians lived for thousands of years, subsisting off the river bottoms in the southern Appalachian Mountains. During the removal in the 1830s of most of the Indians in the east to reservations in Oklahoma, some Cherokee Indians hid in the Smoky Mountains, living a hardscrabble life in these beautiful yet unforgiving hills. Years later, they were able to buy back their homelands from the federal government and form the Qualla Boundary, which includes about 56,000 acres in western North Carolina. Today, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians live in this stunningly beautiful setting and carry on many of the traditions started by their ancestors centuries ago. I'm Angie Thompson, and I've spent a lot of time in Cherokee, North Carolina with my friend Marty Fourkiller. Marty's family was removed way back then to Oklahoma, where he grew up and became a professional bass fisherman. He has since returned to Cherokee to live where his great-grandfathers lived and to explore the creeks and streams and the communities that seem to exemplify what being a Cherokee is all about.
So your dad made this for you?
Yeah, a rod holder.
And this cane is from right here on the reservation?
Yeah, it's from here on the reservation. It's just regular, I don't know if it was a transplant cane, but you know, it is river cane. And he made it so it would fit my rod.
Cool.
He used a little deer antlers. You know, I'm a deer hunter.
Yeah.
And for my handle, and that is actually my name in Cherokee writing.
Wait, which is the right way?
I think it actually goes like this, and that's like Martin. My name's everybody calls me Marty, but it's Glue Glue, and that's Martin
that's
in
Cherokee for Martin.
Yeah.
How neat! I just think that is so incredible. I love it. I hope you get to use this for a long time. Glue Glue.
Glue Glue.
Can I call you Glue Glue?
No, you can't call me that. Because you don't sound, it just doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right. It doesn't.
And you know, this morning we was talking about how many years we've been doing this.
Yeah.
And neither one of us exactly knew. Isn't that kind of great though? That we've been
that
fishing
is
here
right.
that many times?
That's a good point. I think we've been doing it for 5 years.
A while.
Yep. But I can tell you, it is always fun to come to Cherokee, North Carolina. No doubt about that.
I mean, we're still on, you know, some of the same tributary waters, but you know, a different spot. And I think, you know, we've talked about how many different spots there are, and you know, I mean, like we may see 3 or 4 different spots today, but we'll pass up a lot of good spots.
Oh yeah. So what creek is this, Mark?
This is the Ravens Fork. Bunches Creek runs into it up here. I know we've fished Bunches Creek before.
I remember fishing Bunches Creek. But it all goes to the Oconee.
Yeah, and eventually into the Lake Fontana down there.
I'm going to take you to school on these rainbow trout.
All right.
I wish we could just fish that one deep hole right there.
Yeah.
Because I've got a feeling that's where they're laying is in that deep hole.
Oh, yeah.
There's one.
There's one.
Have you got one too?
Nope. I was just mocking you, dear. That's a nice one.
Uh-oh, he's in that water. He's going to come off. No!
I don't think it's quite as big as the one I caught.
Oh, I'm sure it's not.
Yeah.
I'm sure I did not catch one as big as the 4-killer.
Yeah.
Fish slayer.
Uh-oh.
Glue Glue.
Glue Glue. Don't be using that now, because you just don't sound right. Say.
I know, it doesn't sound right coming from me, does it?
It's a hard name to pronounce.
Well, and when you say it, it sounds like
Glue Glue.
Glue Glue.
Glue Glue.
Glue Glue.
When we come back on Cumberland Stories, we'll see some of the strongest traditions of Cherokee life, teaching young people about the river, and later on, Indian stickball. Now this is an unforgettable game.
got you blocked off over here, and I know that's where the big one is.
It's always fun to share a morning on the creek with an old friend. On Cumberland Stories today, we're in Cherokee, North Carolina, on the Qualla boundary, the home of the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, with my friend Marty Fourkiller and a whole bunch of rainbow trout. The Cherokee Indians manage over 30 miles of trout streams here, and they have their own hatchery to keep the waters very well stocked with fish. The fish are abundant, and the setting is incredible. A good combination for anyone.
Marty, how old were you when you started fishing?
Oh, probably 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
3 or 4, you're kidding.
Yep.
Did your dad teach you to fish?
Both my dad, but mostly my mother.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Well, that's so neat.
Yep. Mostly my mother.
You know, we were talking earlier about kids fishing. My little nephew is here, and he's 11, and he loves to fish. And it's so neat to see that passion in little kids. You know?
Yeah, no doubt.
They're so passionate about it.
Yeah.
And
He's ready to go.
He is ready to go.
When I think of all my Indian friends in Cherokee, I see them in two different lights. On the one hand, there are the tough, proud grandsons of warriors, the kind of guys who play stickball until their noses bleed and then go purify themselves in the rivers. On the other hand, those same men go to those same waters and bring their children to teach them the ways of the outdoors. The river is a constant part of life in Cherokee, and it always has been.
Traditional name for the water is the long man. The long man circles the earth. It connects everything that we are, everything that we know comes from the water through that big circle.
Cherokee's fishing water is managed by the Cherokee Fishing Game Management. One of the game wardens in that program, my friend Buff, agreed to take my nephew Anthony out on the water and show him how to put a rooster tail in just the right place to coax one of his rainbows to the surface.
So what should I be doing with my lure?
Cast it straight out in front of you and let it swing around down with the current. That way, even though they're sluggish today, then they'll pick it up and bite a little better.
Why are they sluggish?
They're sluggish because the water temperature, as it warms up, they trout like cold water, and they're a lot friskier in cold water than they are warm. So they're not like a bass or anything. It's do better in the warm water. These do. You can tell by the temperature of the water that we're in it. It's cool, but it's not really cold.
How did you get your name?
I was born and I was a really young man. My grandfather, he's a Rob Big Meat was his name, and he decided that all of my family needed a nickname. Well, most of the Indian families do have a nickname, and he decided that my name would be Buffalo. You try to get him off this time?
Yeah, I'll try on this. Let's see.
It's a big fish.
Yeah. He's bigger than the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still really wide in the stomach.
I'd say that thing's probably 18 inches. That's a big fish.
Why do they have spots on? I mean, you know?
No, I don't know why they got black spots.
Fishing can be a frustrating experience when you're 11 years old, even if you're fishing on Indian waters with a man called Buffalo. But the experience will no doubt stay with my nephew Anthony and all the other kids that visit Cherokee for many, many years. We're going to have to pause here for a moment, but when Cumberland Stories returns, we'll see the hard-hitting game of stickball, which personifies another side of a Cherokee Indian. Tough, brave, but still all about having a good time. If you were driving down a road in Cherokee, North Carolina, it wouldn't be uncommon to see many a fisherman wading into the streams there to fish for trout. If you were there in the fall of the year, it would also not be uncommon to see a group of men wearing nothing but a pair of shorts and holding a short stick, hurling a ball around. They're playing Indian stickball, and it's a game that's literally thousands of years old. Indian stickball includes elements of a lot of other sports that were invented later. In fact, it's thought to be the forerunner to the game of lacrosse. There's blocking and tackling like in football. You see man-to-man defense like basketball, and there's a lot of track, a lot of running. I'm not quite sure where the choking might come from, but it seems to be a lot of wrestling in there too. Indian stickball served for centuries not only as entertainment, but as a means for actually settling disputes between towns and tribes in the Southeast. It's perhaps the oldest sport on the continent.
Traditionally, it was a mechanism to keep feuding out of our tribe. If two people were to get into an argument or a disagreement over something, they'd get them a ball team together and play ball. Whoever won the ball game would settle the argument. So we called it the little brother of war. And it kept clans from feuding among themselves and kept a lot of infighting out of the tribe with this ball game. And men and women played it traditionally a long time ago. And there was a lot of gambling associated with the game. The ball players a lot of times would bring food and tools and livestock, clothes, all kinds of stuff, and they'd just put it at one end of the field. And the winners got to divide the spoils. The teams could be any size as long as both teams were even. And you'd have a captain and a driver and a scorekeeper, a doctor for each team. And you played until one team or the other scored 12 points. And you scored by getting a small ball through two uprights at the end of the field. And the sticks, we call ball sticks, are like rackets that lacrosse is played with today. The modern game of lacrosse originated from the stickball games that the eastern tribes played. Some of the few rules is that you can't pick the ball up off the ground with your hands. You have to use your sticks to pick the ball up. Once you get it off the ground, you can hold it in your hand or carry it any way you'd like to. And it's decided on at the beginning of the game whether the sticks are allowed to be used for weapons during the game. Hitting one another and things like that's decided on by the captains and the scorekeepers and the drivers. We have men that carry long hickory switches. If someone gets angry and starts a fist fight during the game, they'll use those switches and break it up. And to begin the game, we have a toss-up, like a basketball toss-up in the middle ground. They throw the ball up in the air and they compete over who gets control of that ball out in the middle ground. And then they'll break away from the middle ground, and usually they'll have men, larger men in the middle that fight over the ball, and then the runners on the outside, and they'll pass the ball out, get it to one of the quicker players, and they'll try to run through the uprights. You can throw the ball through the uprights, but it's much more honorable to run the ball through. And you play with no intermission until there's 12 points scored by one team or the other. I've heard of games being played all day and no one being able to score 12 points, and at dark, the players would sleep on the field and regain play at daylight the next morning. And the only thing that they were allowed to drink during these games was what we call a black drink. It was a stimulus drink that was prepared by the medicine people and drank out of conch shells. And it was a sacred formula. And yopon was one of the ingredients from down on the coast. And so things were traded in from a lot of different regions to make this drink for the ball games. There was a lot of ceremony, a lot of medicine, things like that involved. A lot of this is still sacred information, and ball players have practice sticks and have their game sticks and have medicine on these sticks, and things are really traditional still when you go to the games. And the teams that play today are usually representing different communities on the boundary. And in the middle part of the 1900s, they outlawed a lot of the gambling and things like that associated with the games because the games were so rough. And the government, the federal government, started to create regulations about how we could play this game and what we could do. And so we started dividing a lot of teams up into two teams and playing exhibition games for a fee. And so the games aren't near as rough as they used to be. But it was common for people to get killed in the games a long time ago. And during the game, there wasn't any revenge assault. It was just part of the chance you took when you got out there and played ball. And there's no protection. We don't wear any helmets, no pads, not anything. Today we'll wear a pair of swimming trunks so we can tie them on so they don't get ripped off during the ball game. And the way the clothes are marked, a long time ago the captains a lot of times would wear stars on their trousers or on their shorts as an indicator of their status in the team. And if you have a grievance with somebody, when the team begins, you're paired up according to size and ability. But if you have a grievance with someone after you've been paired up with the other team, you can pick your sticks up and go down and lay them down in front of the guy you want to play ball against. You settle your dispute during the ball game. And just about anything goes. just sports in general is still a big part of our culture today. It's really the fabric that holds a lot of communities together. We play a lot of softball, football, pitch horseshoes. A lot of people are really involved from Head Start level all the way through the school system with the sports teams. And then we have a lot of people that have gone on to play professional ball and college ball in different levels. And the attitude toward modern sports, I think, came out of our attitude toward the old games and the way that we played ball and really looked at this sport as a way of developing who you are in your community and in your family, things like that, and how people look up to you. And we had a lot of people that were looked at in the past just like professional athletes are looked at today. These were leaders in our community and people that achieved greatness through this game. I know a story about one man who was such a fierce ball player that no one would challenge him. He went into the middle ground and threw the ball up 12 times and caught it, scored all 12 points and won the game without ever having to wrestle or fight or nothing else. That was Jerry Wolf's uncle. I think his name was Standing Turkey. These guys were bad to the bone. When I was a kid, the men were fierce, huge men that logged and farmed all day, and you know they were just tough as nails, and wasn't afraid to use it either.
When Cumberland Stories returns, we'll see yet another side of the multifaceted Cherokee culture.
Cumberland Stories has been made possible by the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. Come to historic Cherokee, North Carolina. Our story lives on. And by Oh Boy Alberto Beef Jerky, the great tasting portable protein snack.
Having a passion for the outdoors can take you so many places, and you can learn so many wondrous things outside of the field or stream. Today on Cumberland Stories, we're in Cherokee, North Carolina with the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, where that river plays so many roles in the lives of the people that its significance may not be possible to put into words. It influences almost every part of life here.
River cane was one of the most valuable resources, natural resources to the Cherokees. We used it for just about everything. We'd eat the sprouts, we made our houses out of it, we used it for bed coverings, we decorated the walls in our houses with cane mats, we made our baskets out of it in all sizes and shapes. It was really a necessity in a lot of ways. It takes about 30 to 50 years for this to seed out, so it reproduces by coming up off of sprouts from the root system. I'll take a piece of cane like this, and quarter the cane, and then just peel off the outside of the cane. Now this will give me basket splits like these. I have to scrape it on the inside to get it thin enough to work with. I won't scrape the outside of the splits. I'll leave that natural smooth finish of the cane on that. And the splits in this basket are, some of the lighter colors are natural. This is how it'll dry and it'll get this beige color. The red splits are dyed with bloodroot and the darker splits have been dyed with black walnut bark. This is a single weave basket. They're started on the bottom and finished with a rim split around the top. But this is a double weave basket. These double weave baskets are started on the inside on the bottom of the basket. You build the basket up, and at the top of the basket you turn the splits and weave back down the side. These double weaves are completed on the bottom. I'll weave these splits together across the bottom, and it'll look just like the inside of the basket across the bottom when the basket's finished. And these, if they're woven out of material that's all the same size and wove tight enough, when it gets wet the material will swell and it'll become watertight.
These are people that have taken care of their resources, and to this day, they honor and respect them. But at the same time, they welcome the rest of us to come and share their resources and their culture with them. They welcome us with open arms, wide hearts, and always a big smile on their handsome faces.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports.